Hi, everyone, and welcome to the You Are the Magic Chat series. I'm your host, Kylie James. I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. I am so honoured to speak with today's guest, Aline McCarthy. Aline and I first connected a few years ago through a business mentoring program we did with Tori Archbold called Powerful Steps. And I've been following Aline since that time, and I'm just fascinated by her story and the work that she does, particularly particularly the work that she's doing for women over the age of 40 and beyond. So I'm really excited to have her on You Are the Magic. Welcome, Aline. It's so great to see you again.
Yeah, so lovely to see you as well. And, I just love that you're talking about magic because my business name is the Wellness Witches. And
Yes.
the name is very polarizing, funnily enough, always for people, which in my mind, witches are something very positive because they
Yes.
bring magic into things and they bring the good magic into things.
Yes.
So yeah, it's I love that you're talking about how to bring a little bit more magic into our lives.
Oh, I love that. I love the whole witches thing. I myself resonate with fairies. Now, I
Mhm.
think witches and fairies are friends, and I think that we do exactly what you said. We spread magic all over the world. So, it's nice to meet another fellow um, uh, magical creature who is out there kind of doing their thing and spreading magic wherever they go. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you do then in your business and a bit about your story about how you got to become the wellness witch?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. It's a little bit of a mouthful,
Yes.
but I kind of sit in between a functional medicine doctor, a naturopath, a nutritionist. So I kind of fill in those gaps and I really focus on gut health. So everything irritable bowel, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, all of those weird things that happen in our digestive tract. Heartburn is a big, very common one as well. And also, just because I truly believe that the gut is the seat of our health and, it affects everything else in our body to have good digestion. So you'll have clearer skin, if people have rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, any of those skin conditions, they're always very strongly linked to the gut. Obviously, our hormones are very much dependent on how well our gut functions as well. And there's just so much power in, what we eat makes up the cells of our body, literally. And it's not just what we eat, but how we can absorb that beautiful food that we're eating, most efficiently and effectively. And all of that happens in the gut. The gut is, houses about 70 to 80% of our immune system. So if something goes on in the gut that's not great, then it will be a body-wide effect. You can get autoimmune issues, which brings me to my story, which
Yeah.
is basically after my children were born, I got into severe chronic pain. I couldn't walk or stand or sleep anymore. I went down the route of surgeons and rheumatologists and all sorts of different health professionals trying to figure out what's going on with me. Is it cancer? Like, what the hell is going on? And in the end, I got a diagnosis for autoimmune disease, which was rheumatoid arthritis. Now that diagnosis led me to believe that I'd be in a wheelchair by the age of 40. I was only 32 at the time because I
Yeah.
literally could not sit up without being in excruciating pain. I was heavily medicated. I was put on all the medication for autoimmunity and, suppressing the immune system. But none of that helped, and it actually made me a lot worse to be on those medications. Now, in the meantime, you know, I ended up seeing different rheumatologists, and that original diagnosis was sort of revoked. Like one rheumatologist believed I had an autoimmune issue, the next one said, well, the antibodies are high, but maybe not that high, and it's non-conclusive. So in the end, it was just incredibly confusing, like what is causing me these symptoms. And because I was already, in massage and body work and craniosacral therapy and fascia, I grew up in Germany, I already had a big belief in more natural therapies to help the body heal. And my husband is an osteopath, which obviously helped me tremendously at the time. But I was like, okay, like I had enough of doctor's appointments and investigations and being poked and prodded and injected and
Yeah. Yeah.
and put on the most crazy cocktails of the strongest pain medication there was, and basically, feeling suicidal from the medication and like feeling crazy. And I had two tiny toddlers, babies to look after at the time as well. So I was like, I cannot do this. I have to be there for my children. I cannot be on these drugs. And so, yeah, that's how I then went into deeply investigating what was going on with me, and I had to heal my gut and I had to detox my liver, and I sort of slowly started understanding that it didn't just happen all of the sudden. There were years and decades of, anxiety in my 20s, recurrent UDIs, thrush, vaginal thrush, all the time in my 20s, being on constant antibiotics for those UDIs, and then, having more thrush, and then having more antibiotics because I'd had another UDI. Obviously also, being unhappy in my previous career. Like so many things obviously contribute to our physical and emotional well-being, and all of that, is stress to the body. And then in the end, I had to unravel all of that to get better. And I'm 43. I'm obviously not in a wheelchair. Should I stand up?
Yeah.
I'm pain-free. I can lift 80 kilo weights
Wow.
and leg press 80 kilos, 77.5 I got to yesterday, and I'm
Awesome.
gotta be at 80 next week, I reckon. So yeah, now I'm just super passionate in helping women, unravel their chronic health issues,
Yeah.
and showing them, that we can work. Obviously, I'm not against conventional medicine. It
Yeah.
really has a place. We need it, particularly for more emergency situations. But the health system is just like under-equipped to help with really chronic conditions. And it's really not a preventative healthcare system. It's just waiting for you to be really sick, and then they put you on a drug. And I really strongly believe in the power of the food that we eat and, the lifestyle that we lead, being able to help us so much to get back to health and get back into balance. And I've now worked with hundreds and hundreds of women, and I know that it's true. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
changing
Yeah.
nutrition and changing the way we do things, and doing some functional lab testing to find out what's really under the surface, like the iceberg, where you only see the tip of the
Yes.
iceberg, which is the diagnosis or the symptoms that you're having,
Yeah.
the crazy mood swings, or the unclear skin, or the bloating, or the diarrhea. That's just the tip of the iceberg, but the majority is hidden under the water. And it's a
Yeah.
bit like, if we're being on the Titanic and we're just thinking that it's just a tiny little tip of the iceberg poking out, we're literally gonna eventually crash into that iceberg and go down like the Titanic. So my job is looking under the water and going, what else is happening underneath the surface? Bring that to the surface and allow the body to come back into healing and balance.
That's incredible. Like, I mean, just even listening to it, I think the first thing that jumps out at me is, first of all, what a confronting thing that would have been at 32 to be told that, you're essentially potentially going to be in a wheelchair by the age of 40, and how you've gone, you know what, I'm actually just going to take this into my own hands and try and, change that narrative. And here you are today, just thriving in life, but then, paying forward the gift to help others to, I guess try and live their best life as well, through taking charge of their health as much as they can as well. I think that's just a beautiful gift that you're giving to not only yourself, but then to others as well. So thank you is my first, thing that I wanted to say, because I think that's just beautiful, but also really confronting as well to, some of this stuff that you're talking about is not easy to talk about. And often we don't want to talk about it. So like, what's been the response when you've gone out there? Because I've seen you on Instagram talking about, poo and all of those lovely things. What's been the response that you've gotten from people when you started to kind of, go, come on, let's dig into this a little bit deeper?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, again, being German originally and, having lived in Sydney for 15 years now, and obviously being married to an Australian and raising my children here, I still sometimes forget that people are a lot more closed up about those things. I think German are much more open about nudity. We have a whole nudist culture. We sit naked in our saunas. We would never think about putting our swimmers on to sit in the sauna to sweat. Um, and uh, and I don't know if that's why it's so easy for me also to also talk about poos and thrush and
Yeah.
all of the more secretive things. But yeah, that's kind of just a person that I am, and I know I sometimes forget how confronting it is for people and how embarrassing it is for them. I don't find it embarrassing at all to admit that. Yeah, and I still sometimes also get constipated and stuff like that. I don't find it embarrassing to say, but I have to remind myself that, be a little bit more sensible, because yeah, sometimes the reaction is obviously like, what, that's too full on. But you also find your kind of people that kind of go, oh, okay, that is funny that she's talking
Yeah.
about that. I just want to kind of break down the stigma and the barriers. The same thing with menopause and
Yes.
perimenopause. I feel like, if we all just agree that we all live in this human body, and every mammal on this planet has poops and pees
Yeah.
and either a penis or a vagina, and every single woman, or people who identify as a woman, I should probably say, they will go through different stages of their vaginal health and their hormonal health, and they'll have maybe crazy symptoms going through menopause, or having weird heavy periods or painful periods. Like, all of that is seen as normal, but it's actually not normal. It's just very common.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of educate and break down that just because it's common, it doesn't mean that it's a good sign of your health. It's just a sign that your body is sending to kind of go, hey, your
Yeah.
periods are really bloody painful. So you have to take all of these painkillers to kind of self-medicate, because you're otherwise going to pass out. And I'm also going to send you some pimples, and I'm also going to send you some really sore boobs, and maybe maybe some crazy mood swings, so you're starting to cry and hate everybody for 24 hours. And so that's not normal, like, we're not meant to feel like that. And I feel like we've forgotten that we have a lot of power, and we can take that control back about our bodies, it always starts with learning and educating and understanding your body and kind of going, oh, okay, right. So it's not actually normal to feel like that. And now, what can we do to improve that?
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the things, like where do we start with all of this? If someone walked into you and they were, and I'm going to probably lean into people in their, women in their midlife, because that's, the audience that we have with this show. If someone walked into you going, you know what, I do have sore boobs, heavy periods, my stomach's always sore, everything just feels like crap, basically. Where do you start with them?
So usually we just start by having a really comprehensive history intake, right? Lots of forms to fill in, but also having a really long, in-depth conversation, going all the way back to their childhood. Because again, it's not just happening now. This is coming from somewhere. It's been building up probably for a while. And by the time we're in midlife, we've been under certain amounts of stress by that time. And juggling children or careers and all of the above is also something, that we do in Western society and not necessarily what women ancestrally used to do.
Yeah.
And, not in the isolation without the whole village taking care of your children,
Yes.
etc., etc. So we're trying to do it all, and it's fantastic that we can do it
Yeah.
all. But we usually then arrive in midlife and kind of are hit by a truck going, oh my God,
Yes.
I cannot keep going like this. Like burnout is a huge issue and stuff like that, obviously, as well, for that reason. So we take a comprehensive history. We decide which labs are then, kind of helpful to run. I don't overtest, but I always will look at blood chemistry, because it's the most scientific validated test. That's why doctors also run your blood test. But I look at functional ranges, so they're much more narrow, because the lab ranges are super wide, because they take like an average for the whole population. So an 80-year-old person and an 80-year-old person are kind of in the same spectrum. And it's basically, again, like once you're off that wide lab range, you've fallen off the cliff already. And then, yeah, it's a little bit late and you probably do need to take medication by that time. I don't want you to fall off that lab range, okay?
Yes.
I want to look at nice, scientifically validated, but much more narrow ranges where I can get you optimal. I want you to be thriving. I want you in optimal health, not just waiting for, terrible things to happen and then having to be medicated. So we can get a lot of information out of your blood test, obviously, your liver health, your immune health. I can see if people are eating enough protein, like so much information, inflammation status, obviously blood sugar, metabolism, bone health, like all of those really good things. And thyroid is obviously also a really female problem, unfortunately, the thyroid issues that start popping up in midlife. And yeah, we can run hormone tests, we can run poo samples, pee, saliva, all the body fluids.
Yeah, wow.
To get more information about what's causing you your digestive symptoms, what's causing you to be inflamed. The root cause is always some sort of inflammation going on, and how your hormones are going. And the thing in midlife really is that our hormones start to go a little bit on a roller coaster ride. It literally looks like that. Our estrogen usually deep dives. This can happen after 35. So perimenopause is a lot longer than many women think. They just wait until they're 50 and then they go, oh shit, like now I feel really crappy. But from the age of 35, women can start to have their hormones fluctuate. We don't ovulate every single month anymore. And that's very unique, and individual to each woman. So we really gotta go with the woman's symptoms and, do more investigation, obviously, and then kind of tailor a plan, and we can
Yeah.
really usually start with a lot of nutrition work, what they eat, how much they eat, what times of the day, really fine tune that nutrition, obviously implement whatever comes back on the test results. And then unravel that. Like, we're never going to balance the hormones in perimenopause because it's your
Yeah.
second puberty, right? You've
Yeah.
had the first puberty, and you might slightly remember how crazy that was, and your whole body changing, and
Yeah.
but nobody really ever tells you that this is your second puberty, and
I
it's
love that. I've never heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
equally as crazy.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be potentially, the hormones are not gonna be anywhere in balance ever, and there's no point in trying that, but it's still a natural process, and you don't have to suffer. Like, if you look at a lot of societies that still live in a more natural way, in tribal structures, or different countries, they sometimes don't even have a word for perimenopause or menopause.
Mm.
They don't suffer with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Because they
and
just, is it just because they let their body kind of do its thing, basically?
yeah, I just think that they still have a more natural nutrition. They're not as inflamed, and their body hasn't been under so much stress by the
Mm.
time they get to perimenopause. So I always
Mm.
say, how you transition through perimenopause is a direct reflection of your lifestyle, your nutrition, and how much gut inflammation and other things you've already got going on. So if you're drinking alcohol each night, sorry ladies, to
Back the
de-stress
wine.
and calm down, which is completely understandable, but it's not the best habit to do, particularly in perimenopause. It really messes with your hormones, and your sleep. And then again, that's how we get to the sleep piece. A lot of women don't prioritize sleep. They, stay up on screens, multitasking, and I include myself on that. Watching more Netflix, like all the screens, the blue light disruption is really not conducive to our sleep. Then our, one night of bad sleep leads to more insulin resistance. Then we start packing on the tummy weight. Stress hormones go up, which also puts on the tummy weight. So, it sometimes is the easy things, like get some good sleep, get off your screens,
Yeah.
don't drink the alcohol,
Yeah.
have a boring life. Look, women always say, oh, it's so boring. It's like, yeah, it's also boring to feel like shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's more boring?
Yeah. I love that
You
because,
know what's more boring, right? Yeah.
yeah. And we put up with, we think that this is how we should feel because it could be how we've been feeling for a long time. But then, as you say, when you implement those changes and all of a sudden we start feeling better, it's like, wow, didn't know we could feel this way. It's like a revelation. It's like life can be good, and it doesn't have to feel hard, or you don't have to feel tired all the time, or whatever the symptoms might be.
Yeah.
But we do need to kind of peel back the stuff to the level of boring to get there, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really like perimenopause is the time where you find yourself at a crossroad. You can choose, long-term health, because this is a time where it's crucial how you're going to live when you're 50, 60, 70, and 80.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have a financial plan and a business plan or whatever, but they never make a health plan. They go, oh yeah,
Yes.
well, hopefully when I'm 80, I'm still going to be fit and bright in my brain, and be able to run around with the grandchildren and stuff like that. But they don't
Yeah.
really know what they need to be doing to get there, and they just sort of let it happen, right?
Yes.
And you find yourself at that crossroad. You can choose, long-term health, or you can choose, unfortunately, inflammation and disease. And this is because your body is in so much chaos and that decline. So, in the end, like, our hormones go like that. But by the time we fully transition into menopause, we have 12 consecutive months of not having a period. That's, that day is then deemed menopause. So 12 months without a period. Um, by that time, your hormones definitely drop, right? All of them are then gone. Your ovaries don't produce them anymore. We still produce some from the adrenals and stuff like that. But overall, they're basically tanking. And that withdrawal and that decline of these hormones has a body-wide effect. It's not just, oh, I'm not having periods anymore. Your whole brain is covered in estrogen receptors. Yeah, so our sex hormone, estrogen, estradiol. That's why, once that estrogen drops, we see more brain fog and fatigue and lack of focus and mood issues. Crazy amount of depression, anxiety, and mood issues. And it's, really one part because people are already inflamed going into perimenopause. They have gut issues and underlying things that haven't been addressed. But then it's like that perfect storm. The hormones start to tank and your brain isn't getting the stimulation that it needs from those protective hormones. And then, we see dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, neurodegeneration happen. And we're kind of being told it's normal that old people get forgetful and, end up in a nursing home. But is it really? And does it have to be like that? So, we want to kind of go, hey, when I'm 80, I still want to be able to read and, recognize my family preferably and go traveling maybe even. So how do I keep that brain healthy? That's really, really important in perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
Then the other thing that really changes is our bone health and our muscles, obviously. So each year we start losing muscle and, we get sarcopenia and then osteopenia, which is weak bones, osteoporosis as the end stage. And, from the age of 60, women die from having a simple fall by tripping over or their dog pulling them or another dog bumping into them and then falling and they break their hip and they never come back home from hospital.
Yeah.
Or it's like that downward trajectory because they never get strong and fit again afterwards.
Yeah.
And they spend a couple of decades maybe in terrible health. And that's not what we want, right?
Yeah.
Again, how do we keep our muscles from deteriorating, which will really help also with us staying lean? We're going to put a little bit of weight on in perimenopause as like a protective mechanism, but it shouldn't be 10 kilos or 20 kilos or whatever, and particularly not around our organs.
Yeah.
So that retaining that muscle helps your bones. It helps you also when you're 80 to still be able to lift your grandchildren and go and carry your own shopping and maybe travel with a little suitcase and be independent and not live in a nursing home where everybody has to help you.
Yeah.
So it's like get clear what you actually want.
Yeah.
The other area is obviously cardiovascular health. So by the age of 60, women completely catch up with the risk of heart attacks and also stroke. So again, brain health with men. And a lot of women don't know that. They always think of men having heart attacks and cardiovascular risk, but women actually completely catch up. And it's because our hormones are gone. So these hormones are also very protective for our heart, our brain, and every other cell in the body. So that's why we're finding ourselves at that crossroad, and obviously cancer becomes a real issue then as well. So it's really a time where we kind of, we're not in our 20s anymore, and we kind of have to get real with ourselves and go, what do I really want, and how do I really want to be when I'm 60 and 70? And it seems like a long time away, maybe, but I honestly believe, and you see when people are already, there's amazing people online now who are so inspiring, who are 70 and they start weightlifting and, like they look amazing, but they live a great life. And that's what we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if I guess you've talked about a couple of different things that we could all start doing, just even now without going through all the process of getting all tests and those sorts of things. If there was one, if you could wave a magic wand and just say to everyone, do this, is there one thing, or maybe is there maybe three things or something like that, that you think every person listening to this call, or, every person over the age of 40, or women, female, or those who identify as being female, can do to start taking the right steps towards having great health? What could that be?
Yeah, I think I know that. Like when we're thinking about longevity, right? Because that's kind of where the direction of this chat went. So, get sleep, prioritize sleep. It really helps your hormones so much. It helps, your hunger hormones, your blood sugar hormones, your stress hormones. It obviously really helps the health of your brain. Like it's your restoration time, your body
Yes.
needs to actually repair itself. So we need that sleep. And then obviously really focus on your nutrition, like blood sugar stability, so important. It's again such an easy thing to do, such a simple thing to do, but a lot of people aren't doing it. Like eat adequate amounts of protein, minimum 30 grams a meal. So again, we want to prevent that muscle loss. We want to have nice and stable blood sugar. It also usually leads to people binge eating less, overeating less cravings, you feel fuller for longer. So without being on a diet, you're automatically kind of eating less, but just because you're going to feel so
Yep.
full from eating more protein.
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, protein is kind of that macronutrient that I don't ever see a woman hit
Yep.
consistently,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we very easily kind of want to eat more plant-based, and we want to eat more salads, and we want to eat, conveniently there is a lot of bread and pastas and carbs
Yes.
around.
Yes.
But actually prioritizing that protein really helps your metabolism. Your body really needs all of those amino acids to stay healthy long term.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
third thing, there's so many things, but
I know it was a big question, but
the third thing which you get the most bang for your buck is really start lifting weights.
yeah.
There's
Yeah. Okay.
so much research going into that, and so much hype about it. But it's true because, again, if we think about muscle loss and preventing muscle loss, bone density, if we think about your metabolism. So again, what do most women come to me for in perimenopause? It's like they're gaining weight, right? And that's what
Yeah.
they come for.
Yes.
That's not the main concern, right? Like
Yes.
really
Yes.
it's just an
Yeah.
expression of something not going so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that like keep preventing that muscle loss. Even maybe you can even pack on some muscle, which becomes actually really hard at a certain age,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
because naturally you're losing it, not to mention even trying to build. But it's definitely
Yeah.
possible. You can see weightlifter, women who lived in their 70s and they look amazing, they look really toned and everything. That's what we really want when we're talking about weight loss. We're not just wanting to be skinny, we actually want to look toned, we want to be fit, we want to be strong. And we want to be strong until we're 80, 90, or 100, right? Whatever is possible. And so the only way to do that is by lifting heavy. You're not going to
Yeah.
get strong by doing a 500, 500
Yes. Yeah.
gram,
Yeah.
barbell or whatever people do.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Um, the Pilates classes, I love Pilates, I love yoga, I love all of that, but it's not enough to, at a certain point, right, to
Yeah.
prevent that muscle loss. So you got to be able to lift
Build
heavy,
the muscle as well. Yeah.
look toned or look ripped, have that muscle on their body. They don't just have that because they sit around, right? It has to
Yeah.
be lifting heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The effects on your hormones, the effect on your metabolism, the effect on your thyroid, which is the master conductor of your metabolism, the effect on your blood sugar. I mean, muscle is literally like, another organ that they're now talking about it as another organ because it sucks in all the glucose. So you can actually eat more carbohydrates. you also burning more calories at rest, the more muscle you have, so you can actually eat more beautiful food. And don't we want to be 60 and still being able to eat 2,000 calories and have delicious food? Yes, that's definitely what
Absolutely.
I don't want to
Absolutely.
starve myself. I want to be able to eat gorgeous food. That's the joy in life. So
Yeah.
yeah, weightlifting is one of those things that will
Yeah.
absolutely be transformative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those three tips in itself, get good sleep, eat protein, and lift heavy weights. I mean, I think they're three things that are achievable, really, that that everyone can do. So thank you for sharing that. And to our listeners out there, I hope that that's helpful for you as a starting point. And then you can just see what else you need to do from there, I guess. And this is where you can connect in with someone like Aline to kind of dig a little bit deeper if there's more going on. Yes. I have a couple more questions for you, Aline, and then
Yeah.
I think, we'll wrap up. And one is, I'm going to take you back more to your personal story. And if you look at your whole career and life now, if you could go back to that 32-year-old, um, and tell her something now, what would you say to her? Is there a message that you would say to her at all? Is there a things are going to be okay,
Yeah,
or
it's more like the pain is gonna go away one day. Like, because when you're in excruciating pain every second of the day, it's almost impossible. You forget how it feels to not be in pain
yeah,
because it's all you can remember, and you don't even remember how it is to be pain-free. And so that's why chronic pain is such a nervous system, such a hard issue to unravel, because how do you even get pain free when your brain and your nervous system has no more memory of not being in pain?
yeah,
And it used to do my head in, because people are just like, you got to visualize it and this and that. And I was like, how do I even visualize it when I don't remember? Like, all I remember is because I'm in pain right now. Like, how is
yeah,
it gonna go away?
yeah,
So yeah, it's definitely that. Yeah, it's gonna get better.
yeah,
This is a very dark spot, but just keep believing, keep going, and keep trusting. Uh, you can always come out on the other side, and actually, you're gonna learn so much, so
yeah,
many valuable
yeah,
things. Like, you don't want to hear it at the time. Like, people did tell me that at the time, this is your dark night of the soul, and you're gonna learn it's a gift. And I was like, it's not a fucking gift. Like, you get like, don't say
yeah,
that to people
yeah,
who are severely suffering at the time. It's just like,
yeah,
just literally wanted to take a spoon and poke their eyeballs out when they said that.
yeah,
But but
yeah,
at the same time, but it's like, it takes years. It took me many, many years to get pain-free and get to really good health again. So obviously that's why I'm passionate,
absolutely,
catching people earlier so they don't have to go that far.
yeah,
Because then it just takes a long time. But like, don't give up too early. Keep going. Like, it's so worthwhile. And we now know with people like Dr. Terry Walls, who had degenerative multiple sclerosis, which, in medicine, you're being told there's nothing you can do. She was in a reclining wheelchair. She could, her brain was severely dissolving, and she reversed it all with diet.
yeah,
And
wow,
has an amazing TED talk with billions of
yeah, wow, wow,
books, and I know is still now functioning, giving talks, teaching other people her protocol. And if things can always get better, no matter what. So
yeah,
there's always stuff that we can improve. And yeah, I think I would send myself that message, just
yeah,
hang in there, sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's great. You know, one thing that I say to my clients is just take one step at a time. Don't look too far ahead. Just take one step and then another step and then another step. And it's amazing how far you will have gone if you just, keep going and not give up. And it can be hard. But if you can ride those waves and get over those speed bumps, you will make it. So it is a keep on going because it'll be worth it in the end. So
And
yeah,
it's that
absolutely.
learning to advocate for yourself as well. Like I think one of the biggest lessons was I had to learn how to, ask for what I needed, like,
Mm,
get a babysitter, get more help. Like,
yeah,
yes, it costs
yeah,
money, but you need it, right? And probably
yes.
needed it much earlier on.
Yeah, yeah. Us and asking for help is we all struggle
Yeah.
with it, don't we? We all struggle
And
with
and
it.
ask, and be able to advocate for myself at the doctors and say, this is
Mm,
not good enough.
yeah,
I need you to communicate better with me or
yeah,
to communicate because none of the doctors were talking to each other either.
yeah,
So you're
yeah,
sitting there being chronically sick, you don't have any understanding of the situation, and nobody's communicating with each other. So
yeah, yeah. It
yeah,
just ends up frustrating you.
yeah,
Yeah,
being
yeah,
a good advocate for yourself, to what your needs are and being honest about that and demanding it.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. You're an inspiration. I love your story. I love watching you do your work and and how you go about it. I I'm just so glad we've connected over these last few years. And I know you've just through how you're educating people, you've certainly opened up my eyes about a few different things that, I was doing that I needed to stop doing. I had eczema. I've had it since I was a kid. And so there's little things that I've done to try and take that, stop that from occurring over the last couple of years. And it's definitely working, which is really, really
Great.
great.
Yeah.
So, and you're right, it does come down to the food, a lot of the food that you put in because it is such a trigger and it can really affect your skin and those sorts of things. So, from a personal note, thank you because I've learnt a lot from you as well. Yeah, I'm kind of reaping some of the rewards, just with some of those really basic things
It
that you've
is. People
suggested.
always go, can it really be that easy? Can it really be that simple? Well, it's like, but yeah, it's simple and it's easy, but are you doing it consistently?
Yeah,
We always want like this magical supplement, and
yes,
the the natural health industry also has these hypes, the turmeric and the liposomal glutathione, and they all, there's always the next best supplement to chase. But in the end, the supplements are a little bit like, yes, they can really help to unravel some of the root causes if you have a gut infection and stuff like that, but generally they're just like the icing on the cake. You still got to do the foundational work
yeah,
first. You got to bake the cake first, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's really like, that's why I work with the Dress for Health success protocol. So D
yes,
for diet, R for rest. Are you resting enough? E for exercise, we do need to move our bodies, and S for stress relief. And then the S at the end is just for supplements, but we need
yeah,
to get those four other things right first. And they are
yeah,
powerful and transformative. Um, Most people don't believe it. It can be that simple, but it's literally solves 90% of your issues, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, that's
Wow.
really, yeah. And
Yeah,
again, just taking tiny little action steps along the way to break that down and not make it such a massive task is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for being on. You are the magic. I've loved chatting with you. Can you share where people can find you? I'll also put it in the notes, the show notes. But if you can just share, how they can find you on socials or via your websites or whatever that might be.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at the Wellness Witches. You can find me on my website, thewellnesswitches.com.au. You can obviously find me on LinkedIn. That's just my name, Aline McCarthy. And yeah, I'm everywhere. Facebook,
Yeah, yeah,
the Wellness Witches, or my name, whatever you want. If you want to connect personally, that's also totally fine. People can always book a free discovery call just to tell me what's going on with them, and then I will honestly let them know, can I help you, or do I refer them on to somebody else who more specializes in that thing. I'm always like no bullshit and straight up with people. And yeah, then you can also find out, how we can work together. I have different options of how we can work together. So getting on a call is always the best way to find out what the commitment in terms of time and finances is as well.
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, I hope you found this really informative. We've just, as if we go back to an analogy that Aline used earlier, it was just the tip of the iceberg that we spoke about today. There's so much more that's involved in this. So follow the Wellness Witches online, on socials, and reach out to Aline if you want some more information. Thanks, Arlene. I really appreciate your time and joining us today. I hope you have the rest of a good day, and we'll chat to you really, really soon.
Thank you so much. I love chatting to you as well, and so glad to, stay connected in
Yeah.
this crazy world, even if it's just online. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, lots of love. Hope to see you soon in person.
Yes, absolutely. Next time I'm in Sydney, we'll be giving you a call.
Yes.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.